On behalf of the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, we hope that you enjoy 11 days in September.
The crack of a baseball bat. The cry, Homer. From 55,000 voices here in the William A. Shea Stadium.
Tonight we come together for the first regular season professional sporting event in New York City since Tuesday, September 11th.
The Mets return to play for the first time at home since September the 11th.
After all these weeks away, all the celebration here of New York and this nation, the Mets to pull out a win like that, this was really something else.
I was just so happy that I was able to, come through that situation and give these people something to cheer about, which that's what they came out here for, to at least be diverted a little bit from the losses and the sorrow.
Good morning. 64 degrees at 8 o'clock. It's Tuesday, September 11th. I'm Lee Harris. Here's what's happening.
Tuesday, September 11th, I was at work at 7 a.m., which was the call time for my union staff. We were getting the field ready, watering the infield, mowing the grass for our sponsorship game. My name's Sue Lucci. I'm from Whitestone, New York, born and raised. I started with the Mets in 1993 as an intern from St. John's University, and I moved into ballpark operations in 1999 and have been with the organization for 31 years. I was born a Met fan, and being from Whitestone, watching Mets games with my grandmother and traveling to Astoria where my dad's tile and marble shop was on Saturdays, we used to pass Shea Stadium back in the day, and getting the position that I got was amazing.
I was getting ready to go down to the gym in the hotel, and my wife had just gotten up, and I turned on the TV for her.
We have a breaking news story to tell you about. Apparently, a plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City.
Friend Linda calls me and said, put the TV on, a plane just hit the World Trade Center.
Plane has crashed into the World Trade Center.
Nobody knew really what was happening. We thought it was a tragedy. I know that some folks ran up to the roof at Shea Stadium to get a better view of what was going on.
We were supposed to have a union meeting at the hotel in Pittsburgh with Don Fear, our union leader, and I was one of the player reps. I got a phone call from Don saying that he had to fly back to New York. A plane had crashed into the World Trade Center.
We witnessed a second airplane strike the south side of the second tower.
Then unfortunately the second plane hit the tower, and that was when life, as I think everybody knew it, changed.
Then on the TV came the plane landing either at the Pentagon or in Pennsylvania or whatever, and it was like a call to action. We've got to do something. We might be the next target.
Confirmation now that an aircraft crashed near the Pentagon and the west wing of the White House was evacuated due to threats of terrorism.
One of the 4 hijacked planes crashed in Pennsylvania, just north of the West Virginia border.
A huge explosion now, raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
I can still recall the sick feeling of watching first tower fall and thinking this can't be real.
Then I was mesmerized until the second tower fell in front of a TV, kind of wondering if it was real or not.
I got a call from Charlie Samuels, who was our traveling secretary at the time, and says MLB wants us to evacuate our hotel because we were next to a federal building. And at that time, nobody knew what the hell was going on. Nobody knew, one place, 2 planes. They're bombing federal buildings. So we had probably about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock that day, and they called off all the games that night in the afternoon.
day where we realize sports is most insignificant. But what is
We're then interrupted with a call to the room and an internal siren.
They felt like the planes were targeting all the federal buildings.
All hell was breaking loose. Everyone's door was either being knocked down or we were calling. And luckily, we were able to get the bus that was going to take us to the ballpark to come early, pick us up, and take us out to a Holiday Inn about 40 miles outside the city.
It was right next to Robert Morris College, which was on the outskirts of Pittsburgh.
You could tell that guys that were New York guys that had family and friends in the downtown area, in the fire department, police department, we could tell there was an added level of, concern.
Now I look back and I kind of realize, like, LaGuardia Airport's right across the street from the ballpark, and people started having these thoughts of, we have to get out of here. And there was a lot of terrified people because there was this uncertainty of nobody knew what was happening.
Fear wasn't part of the atmosphere that guys lived in. They're ball players, they were husbands, they were fathers, and now they had to deal with the uncertainty of what the heck was going on.
Once again, we have no idea at this point the loss of life. I can only tell you there were hundreds of emergency workers.
We did have a precinct in Shea Stadium. There was a cop presence down in the office, so most people were sent home, but being in stadium ops, you just that's what we do. We stay and we figure out what's happening. And that's when things started getting into motion. My boss's phone rang, and they asked if they could use Shea Stadium as a triage center to bring the wounded back to Shea Stadium to set up first aid and everything like that. We said we probably need backboards. And in the bathrooms at Shea Stadium, we used to store backboards because that was the closest location if a fan got hit by a ball or somebody had an injury. So we started on the 6th floor in the upper deck and brought the backboards down to the gates where we figured they would be coming in with the ambulances. And probably within an hour and a half, the direction that we were headed in changed and said, we don't need the stadium anymore. We're going to go across the street to the ice rink and use the ice rink as a morgue to bring the bodies.
Shea was supposed to be a storage for the bodies.
Hearing those words that we're going to use the ice rink as a morgue, it just changed the whole direction of life in general. Baseball didn't really kind of matter anymore. It took a back seat.
Guys didn't realize that it was being set up to potentially, be a morgue and set up to be sort of the closest point of contact for the relief effort.
On Tuesday night at about 4 or 5 o'clock, somebody had said that we were a relief site and you could bring donations to the ballpark.
I got a call from the NYPD saying that they were mobilizing and they were going to use Shea Stadium as a destination point. I went down and physically sat with the police department and a few of the officers there, and just to go over a contingency, like what was really going to happen. When are the EMS people coming? When does the fire department come? And deciding where we should place them. We had the luxury of being on the road, so we were also accepting donations of all kinds of things.
So I took an old whiteboard that was on wheels and I rolled it out to Seagate, which was halfway around the ballpark, right where the parking lot was. And I just wrote, drop donations here. And that is literally how the whole thing came to be. The word got out now that we were a donation site. And the following morning, we had cars lining up to drop stuff off. People showing up with food, people showing up with clothes. They had cases of water. We now became a 24/7 operation.
Tuesday, Shea did play a part in one of the most historic days this country has ever seen. The Shea Stadium parking lots were turned into a staging area for the New York City Fire Department, despite the fact that Shea is some 15 miles away from the site of the devastation at the World Trade Center.
Kevin got another phone call that we were going to be a a relief effort for people who needed to shower, who were down on the pile, who needed a break, who wanted to come and take a shower, get something to eat.
We had a locker room, a spare locker room that the Jets used to use. And we had showers in there, and we set up additional beds in there, and a first aid room for people with minor injuries.
We set up the Gate B with barbecues and tables and chairs, and they were serving people.
Shea Stadium was picked as one of the main staging areas in New York because it fulfilled 3 very specific criteria. The first is that the parking lot is large enough to accommodate the hundreds of emergency medical technicians. The second is that it has access to many of the major highways. And the third reason is that it's close enough to the World Trade Center where relief can get there relatively quickly.
The Red Cross showed up. They set up cots in 2 of the gates at Shea Stadium. There was over 300 cots. And if you're familiar with the old ballpark, it was open, but it didn't matter. It was as long as somebody could put their head down for a few hours and sleep and get up and start over again the next day. At some point, we were told that the team was coming back. They were in Pittsburgh, so they took a bus back because all the planes were grounded.
Finally, we got the okay to come home, and we had an 8-hour bus ride from Pittsburgh to Shea Stadium at the time.
Before we got to the bridge, when we were on the Jersey side, when you take that bend there right after the Meadowlands, and to the right, the skyline is always in view.
Todd Zeal said, everybody look to your right. Where the towers were, there was no more towers, there's all smoke.
It seemed unreal watching it on TV, and it seemed very real crossing the GW.
Seeing it firsthand from a distance, and just seeing, the smoke still coming up, the spotlights are on ground zero, just seeing that particular picture there was like, wow, it's like, wow, this shit is real. This shit is like, wow. And then nobody said nothing.
The only real sound that could be heard was the sound of raw emotion from the guys that, nobody's life was going to ever be the same, but B, that they may have been impacted, personally and directly as well.
It was the moment when I looked at the buildings in Manhattan, and when I looked at my group, the one thought in my mind was that I was the leader and I had people to take care of.
We were feeling at that point, baseball was really secondary. We were concerned about people getting killed, the damage that was done to the city. And I think we were all concerned to get back, what could we do to help? That was the main thing.
The relief effort in the parking lot, and it just continued for multiple days, sorting and shipping stuff out and getting it to places we needed to.
Gate C was where kind of all the action was going on. That's where everybody was dropping off things. Barricades were set up. We had lanes coming in and out, tractor trailers, dropping things off. And Sue took charge with basically instructing what would go where.
I remember jeans coming in. I remember work boots coming in, and we sorted them, and to the point where we put them in cop cars and sent them down to the site. And they had to back the site up, obviously, as they were digging. So it wasn't going directly down to the pile, but it was a few blocks back where they set up their command posts, and that's where we were dropping stuff off.
Then we got to Shea. Sue Lucci was there to meet the bus and kind of give us an overhaul on what was happening. We were told that, baseball was going to be on hold for a while.
By the time I got to Shea, there were 3 rows already of goods, of stuff that were being piled up in the parking lot.
Bobby was holding his own out in the parking lot, giving direction, because who's not going to listen to Bobby Valentine, especially if you're a Met fan?
They're wrapped, they're okay. Backside.
I remember him being up on the back of a box truck sorting clothes that were coming in. That was his role. That was his job. He took over.
In my personal situation, I felt it was a call to duty.
Slowly started hearing stories that, were 3 degrees of separation, and then 2 degrees of separation, and 1 degree of separation.
A friend of mine who I played touch football with on every Sunday was a fireman.
Bobby knew his friend was a jumper.
It's continued to become more and more real because it became more and more personal as we started to regroup.
Bobby had a lot of friends with Cancer Fitzgerald that got passed away, and he really took it hard.
He's a motivator, he's a manager, he's a leader. What he was going through from a personal basis solidified the magnitude of the incidents.
Remember, this was a rescue effort. This was every second counted, because in my being at that time, we were going to start pulling people out of that rubble.
Me personally, I thought there were still chances there was some rescue. Somebody had to be, or a couple of people had to be alive. It was the furthest thing from our minds that there would be no survivors.
I think the sentiment was, let's just shut the season down.
It felt like even if we were not sure if we were going to play baseball or when we were going to play baseball again or where we'd play baseball again, it was good to get back on the field and run around a little bit.
We had to be ready because we weren't sure when it was going to resume, but just to be ready, and that's what we did. We, worked out, and then helped out. Work out, help out, work out, help out. That's what we did.
Everybody was out there packing stuff to go down to the firehouses, Ground Zero, police stations, hospitals.
Hey, let's do what we can. That was kind of the initial reaction.
One of the most positive things that happened at Shea Stadium, which was all the volunteers, the firemen and the cops who would come to Shea to shower. They were out now watching the Mets take BP. It brought them some change of pace. They stood around the cage, made small talk for, if it was 10 minutes.
They would just walk over, how you doing, how's your family? They made it their point to reach out to the people who were watching us play the practice.
And they got back in the fire trucks and the cop cars and took off. But that was something that gave them a break from what they were seeing, what they were doing, what they were witnessing down in the Trade Center.
Some guys even came out in their uniforms. I remember one time, Mike Piazza came out in his uniform pants and a Met t-shirt.
Hi, this is Mike Piazza, catcher of the New York Mets.
As Mets and as players and baseball players in New York, we felt a special sort of emotion and obligation to contribute, to help in any way we could.
We were running on autopilot to kind of process the emotions of it. Nothing that we did was mandatory.
I've never seen such a total team commitment from the players and the staff. Nobody said, we got to do this, we got to do that. They would go inside, shower, come outside, what can we do? And Bobby and Sue just got everybody packing, and everybody wasn't a man on that team who didn't participate.
Besides us, there were a lot of volunteers in the parking lot, a lot of employees from Shea Stadium were there. Like I said, Sue's crew, ground crew guys.
Hand jack, the hand jack.
People who worked in the office. There were people from Shea Stadium and just people who just wanted to help.
These people are busting it to do whatever to make sure that these trucks go back and forth, like what they need.
I believe everybody that's off duty will be here. They're at the divisions, the battalions now, just waiting for us to pick them up and bring some more guys down here. It's a matter of transportation now.
And we did what we could. And New Yorkers, and I'm going to say Americans everywhere, wanted to do something because we had people showing up from other states.
Everybody in the city just wanted to help. Everybody in the country wanted to help. And that brought us together, made us strong.
That one time when it was late at night, it was dark out, it was quiet.
Where a group of nuns showed up and they brought candles, like you light them at a Holy Communion. And they said, we should say prayers. And I just kind of screamed out loud, everybody, I need your attention. And we gathered in a circle
We heard all this rumble. At first, we didn't know what it was. The noise was so loud. Kind of got up on a couple of the boxes and looked across the parking lot, and coming through the parking lot were a lot of these headlights. And then we realized they were single headlights, and then we realized they were motorcycles.
So here I am with a bunch of nuns, and we all stood there, and they kind of looked at me to say a prayer, and I'm like, okay, why am I saying the prayer? And I think I said the Our Father. I can't remember specifically.
And we went, oh shit, what do we do? We thought that they were coming to take stuff, middle of the night. And they kind of shut their motors off. And one of the guys yelled, "We hear you need some help." And I looked at Kevin and I said, "We sure do. Come on in."
And then they started singing God Bless America, and the whole group started singing God Bless America. And I look back now, and I was so stubborn that I didn't want cameras present. I didn't want the press recording this, because this was such devastation that we weren't here for publicity.
We can be very divided in this country at times, but when a crisis like this, when a tragedy like this hits, we do all come together.
But it was a moment in time that, when the country we live in and how broken things are, would have been something wonderful to see on video of how this country came together. And I know there's a lot of video out there, but not of Shea Stadium. It's just the people that are left that can tell you the stories of what transpired. And standing in a parking lot at Shea Stadium singing with a bunch of nuns from the church is something that I'll never forget, and never in my life did I expect to have happen.
I got to spend time with Lieutenant Vandenberg, who was a spectacular female officer who had Shea Stadium on her watch. And she was an angel in uniform who understood how to lead. She was really good.
And she said, "You guys want to go down to Ground Zero to talk and do some good."
I remember taking that van down to Ground Zero.
Silent trip down to Ground Zero from Shea Stadium. Guys didn't know what to expect. I wasn't trying to draw the image for them.
Bobby, I think, was more confident that there may be something, even on a very minor scale, that that we could do just to lift spirits or something. And I think the rest of us felt like, God, I feel like I'm walking into somebody else's world that I don't belong.
You really can't describe the vision and the scope of the destruction. You couldn't imagine that these two buildings now were two big piles of rubble. It was just mind-numbing.
To see this wreckage in our home, I was just shocked. It was a disbelief of what we had seen.
It didn't look real. It did not look real. It looked like something out of a movie set.
The first visit ended up being very significant. I remember being proud that we were going to go down until we got to the lower blocks of Manhattan. The closer we got, the closer we got.
Every face was totally black. Every piece of clothing was like they just walked out of a furnace. It was scary and sad.
The smell is really intense, and it's still, even the closer you get, you can feel the warmth, and you can see still smoke emanating from the site. I felt like, what am I doing here? This is invasive. I'm coming into these people's world, and the last thing they want to see is some dumb jock walk into here like I think I've got something to contribute.
Oh, they were bewildered. They were awestruck. It was like nothing you could imagine. Seeing it on TV does not describe what it was like to be there.
What do these people want us here for? But the more we engaged, not so much with me because I was just a PR guy, but the more they engaged with the Piazzas and the Venturas and the Francos, we could see the smiles on their faces that we were bringing some joy into their lives, helping them get through just a horrific time.
When they recognized us, you could see their spirits kind of uplift a little bit, especially after a few days of nothing but fear, sadness, and anger.
The thought that that could be the world that we're going to live in for a while, that the looks on the guys and the gals' faces and the eyes that I saw those first few days, I mean, there was determination, but there was also panic. You know, there was teamwork, but there was also that idea of survival.
It was very cathartic. It was very sort of therapeutic for them and cathartic, I think, because they just sort of embraced us without any sort of barriers.
These guys, like we have been, were consumed with the task at hand and never got a break from it. And this, even for a moment, even for 30 minutes of chit-chatting about Mets baseball, got them to a place that they could kind of escape for a minute before they had to go back to the arduous task. And so I think it gave us a sense that, okay, maybe there is some purpose down here.
I went into the command center on one of those morning trips down. And when I was in there, someone took off their headphones and said, "The commander-in-chief wants baseball to be played."
The president urged us to return to work, and that is what baseball did. We will follow suit by bringing you news from the games that have become part of our culture.
When it was said, the commander-in-chief wants baseball to resume, I thought that was being said directly to me.
We're supposed to play New York, and we were told we couldn't play them for security purposes. Going to Pittsburgh might be a little bit safer for us to play there.
Mets were supposed to open a 3-game series against the Pirates Monday in Queens, but Shea Stadium, in the shadow of Manhattan's now altered skyline, is a transition center for relief supplies. So the Mets, many of whom spent the weekend at Shea helping to unload those supplies, were the only team Monday not where they were originally supposed to be.
When we first met in the clubhouse, I would say it was 70 or 80% who didn't want to play.
Families are grieving beyond. For us to go play a baseball game? Are you kidding me? I think that probably prevailed, certainly initially.
I was a big proponent. Hey, we can't succumb to feeling sorry for ourselves anymore. It's time to get back up and get this country on its feet and show how resilient we are.
People didn't know what the hell to expect, you know? We didn't know what to expect. And when we got to the stadium at night, right in front of our locker room, there was this big, gigantic poster filled with good luck wishes for the Pittsburgh fans.
There is a banner outside of PNC Park. The words, "God Bless America," are written across it. And the fans have been asked to sign it, offer a message of condolence.
And we all just stopped and looked at it, you know. It was very emotional for all of us. A lot of guys started to cry like I am now, you know. It just got that feeling that people were with us, that they were pulling for us and knew what New York specifically went through.
When we came out for batting practice and we got a standing ovation from the crowd in Pittsburgh, and they were holding signs, "We're with you, New York, USA," all that stuff. We felt good because now the rest of the country was feeling our pain, and they were with us, and they were there for us.
Everybody was one. There was no Pirates Mets that night. Everybody was a human being. We're trying to process what we had lost.
The New York Mets, as you see, not wearing their baseball caps, but honoring the police, fire, and rescue departments of the city of New York with the hats that they are wearing there tonight.
We went to a firehouse on Liberty Street, and we stood on the roof of the firehouse.
We bought hats, you know.
Lucky coincidence, circumstance where I made a trade of a hat, you know, to a guy that was an obvious Mets fanatic and had an NYPD hat for me, and said, you know, hey, well, I'm going to wear this, you know, in solidarity and just out of your honor. you know, that turned into something very different and very meaningful to us.
The hat was born.
You know, when we decided we were going to back to playing again, I remember calling the mayor's office, just wanted a list of every agency who lost one, and we got hats made for every agency.
It's just a nice gesture on the organization to show that the firemen, policemen, emergency, everybody in New York, that we're still thinking of them.
We wanted to wear the hats in Pittsburgh and show that, hey, we're New York strong. We're bringing a piece of our city with us.
Bobby Valentine has kept his New York Police Department cap on. I don't think there's anyone anywhere in the world of baseball who will point out that officially he is out of uniform for today at least.
And we got a call from the commissioner's office saying that we weren't allowed to wear the hats.
I got a memo saying we're violating uniform code and we are not allowed to wear the hats, cease and desist essentially.
We tell the commissioner, come down here.
They're trying to take them off our heads.
Fine us then. We're going to wear the hats whether you like it or not.
So we said, all right, come down and find us. Come down and take the hats off. There were 26 guys on top of somebody.
Well, I can't use the F word, but he basically said, you're going to have to come down and take the hats off our heads because we're wearing them the rest of the year.
And then about an hour later, we got a call that we were able to wear the hats, and we wore the hats the rest of the season.
Much the way I felt about starting back in Pittsburgh, I knew it was going to be a little bit different animal to take on going back and playing at Shea.
You know, there was a decision made at some point that, you know, we were going to play baseball on the 21st. So we needed to consider what we were going to do with everything that was in the parking lot because we wouldn't have any place for people to park for a baseball game. We had to change directions here.
When we were going back to play the first game after the attacks, I think there was a lot of fear and a lot of trepidation, and we did feel like it could have been a target again if there were some sleeper cells still waiting to carry out their attacks.
On top of just playing baseball, we had to come up with a security plan, right? Back before 9/11, it's not that we didn't have security at Shea, but it wasn't the security that you see at the ballpark now. It was a couple of supervisors managing a bunch of guys that if you had a fan that had a fight, you took them out of the ballpark. And we're about to open a ballpark that housed 55,000 people across from an airport. So those conversations started. How do we secure this building?
I met with the police department, and we had to start thinking about metal detectors and scanners.
Folks, no bags, no backpacks, no knapsacks.
Limiting the size of bags that could come in, or there was a whole creation of new rules to enter the ballpark.
I think it's great. Whatever we have to do to protect everyone in America, we have to do it.
You know, we could have been all but sitting ducks, you know, that night. Nobody knew what was going to take place.
There's bomb sniffing dogs. There's Secret Service everywhere. What we had been doing was one thing. Getting ready to bring spectators in there created a completely different atmosphere.
Kirk Wendell asked one of the officers who had the dog, he says, how good is that dog? And sniffing out gunpowder or whatever. The police officer went outside, came back in and had a stick of gunpowder and put it in Turk's locker. Went back outside, got his dog, let it off the leash. The dog went around the locker room once and sat right in front of Turk's locker. So that was pretty safe.
It was locked down, clean, secure, ready to go, and in really good hands.
Tonight we come together for the first regular season professional sporting event in New York City since Tuesday, September 11th.
Going into the game and going into the stadium, for me at least, that's when the emotion started really becoming very heavy. And we felt a certain time that this was going to be a little bit more than just a baseball game. It was going to be an emotional experience as well.
Jay and Sue and the organization had really prepared to showcase the first responders and families, some of the families that I'd gotten to know. If nothing else, it would be a way to honor and celebrate the fallen and the families that were still left trying to stay strong.
Great pregame with the color guard, you know, an emotional color guard.
God bless America.
We took pride in the decor of the ballpark representing what period of time we lived in. We handed out American flags, and I remember the whole stands having them in their hands.
After the color guard, the Braves and the Mets embraced on the field.
As the two lines of ball players meet for hugs and handshakes. Who would have ever thought that possible?
Bobby Cox and Bobby Valentine did not like each other at all. Not at all.
The two arch rivals that just get caught up in the humanity of the moment.
I thought the pregame symbolic gesture of unity between the Braves and the Mets hugging each other was pretty spontaneously spectacular.
Giving one another a hug before they do battle here tonight.
I think first time, probably last time Major League Baseball ever had that happen.
What a ceremony.
Big crowd gathered. Ceremonies behind us, but never to be forgotten as Bruce Chen gets set to throw the first pitch.
Those first innings were eerie. I didn't know how long it would take to determine whether or not this is what we're supposed to be doing.
It was kind of an odd game, like going through it.
The crowd wasn't into it, but they were there.
I don't think most of the people there cared about the game as much as they cared about the symbolism of, New York standing tall.
Oh, this is so exciting. I'm so happy to be here.
You know, once Liza Minnelli came out, she did the New York, New York, and did the line kick with the police officer, and I believe Jay Payton was there with her. So if you saw her in the tunnel, she was having trouble walking, and they had to put her in a golf cart to bring her back and forth. But once she got on the field, there was some type of miracle that happened.
It felt different to me after Liza sang, and it felt like there was some opportunity for people to start celebrating.
That was absolutely marvelous.
Jay Payton was in the on-deck circle, and they embraced.
Jay Payton giving Liza Minnelli a big hug.
It goes back to this thing of being one.
Hearing the chants was a playoff game atmosphere in that it was loud and it was united.
When the fans started to chant that, we knew we were doing the right thing.
I felt like that was just the permission, okay, to actually view this as a celebration, and let's get into the last 2.5 innings of this baseball game and see what cool things can happen.
Too high, ball 4, as Piazza comes up with a man on.
People talk about an out-of-body experience, or they talk about their soul leaving their body a little bit, but I felt this incredible surge of emotion.
And here's the man the Mets want up in this spot, down a run late in the game.
I didn't really think so much about hitting a home run or anything of that effect. One thing I do remember, and I've told it many times, was taking the first pitch, and I said to myself, wow, I might have taken the best pitch I'm gonna get.
And the pitch thrown. Piazza takes it, it's over for a call strike.
Because Steve Garcia had a great arm, and I had limited success. I think a few scratch hits. You know, fortunately, he threw a pitch that I get my arms extended on.
Lopez wants it away.
When you talk about a second in time, changing 40,000 people at the same time, it was needed. Yeah.
Looking back now, I think it was probably the right thing to do. Of course, it did heal.
It was a time where we were united again in a ballpark with 55,000 people. And I think that was the beginning of a healing process, at least for this town.
So many different first responders or families, and we would still continue to visit, saying, that was so great. That gave us the first opportunity to smile since this happened, or it was the first time that they could have a little bit of relief and cheer for something.
I think it sort of exemplified and portrayed to the country and the rest of the world what the spirit of New York is.
Was it the beginning of the healing process? Again, because I heard it so many times, I totally believe it, but I also live it.
Crowd is just standing and roaring.